Hi, I'm Lonnie from Fern. I'm going to show you everything you need to know to make your own terrarium at home. So the way a terrarium works is it isn't completely airtight. A little bit of air can still get in the seal and look after the plants, keeping them nice and happy. Moisture is going to appear in the form of condensation on the insides of the glass. This is all of the moisture from the soil, the plants and the moss. It rises up and then it falls back down again like rainfall, which means a terrarium can perpetually look after itself, meaning it's nice and easy to take care of. So here's everything we're going to need to make our terrarium. We've got a cork jar, some houseplant compost, gravel for drainage, activated charcoal, top stones for decoration, all of our plants, a bit of moss, and a corking stick. Okay, let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is put some gravel into the bottom of our jar. So this acts as a drainage layer. If there's too much moisture inside the terrarium, the gravel allows space for any extra water to go. So just to start off, take a couple of handfuls. And just pop that in the bottom. I tend to say about 3 or 4 centimeters is a good height. You don't want too much gravel in there. Obviously you want space for our plants to grow, but it's important not to have too little as well, as we're going to need sufficient drainage space. Once you've got your gravel inside, take your cork and a stick and just get it all nice and even. So we're ready for the next stage. Now it's time to put in some activated charcoal or activated carbon. So the way that this works is it removes all the toxins that can develop in water. When water's in the same place for a long time, it can go stagnant, which means it's going to start to smell really unpleasant. So it's really, really important that we remember to put in 3 spoonfuls of our activated charcoal. And at this stage, you can be nice and even with it. You don't really have to put too much attention in being meticulous in getting it out. But if you just roughly get it in there, and get as much of it covered as possible, you should be fine. And then if need be, you can just even out the charcoal a little bit using the thin end of the cork on the stick, just to get it nice and even. So we've done our gravel, we've done our charcoal, now it's time to put in some compost. So we're going to be using a nice nutrient-rich houseplant compost today. And just before you put it in, just make sure it's all nice and evenly broken up. And just take a big handful, pop that on top. Get that inside. Now the ideal height of the compost that you want to put in is from the bottom of this pot to the bottom of the lip. So the lip's just this little bit here, just on the top. So just from here to here. So if we just double check, you want to get all your compost going right the way up to the bottom of the lip. There we go. So now we've got our compost inside, it's just time to get the space ready for the plants. So all we need to do, take the cork and a stick, and we're just going to gently pat down the surface of the compost. It's important at this time not to pat down too hard, because otherwise it's going to be really, really tricky to get the plants inside. So just a gentle little pat, get it nice and leveled out. So now it's time to plant up. We've got a few different types of plant we're going to be using today. First of all, we have a calathea. This particular variety is called Calathea conchina. We've got Photonia, also known as a nerve plant. Both of these plants grow in South America, in the rainforest, so they really, really like the humidity that a terrarium can create. And lastly, we've got a little bit of pillow moss, and we'll be putting that in a little bit later. So we're just going to take the calathea out of the pot to start off with. All you need to do is just give it a bit of a squeeze like this, and then you can just pull it out. Now at the moment, there's quite a lot of excess compost here, so we're just going to shake that off the top like that. And then just gently spread out the roots from underneath. There we go. So you want to end up with something that looks a bit like that. To get our calathea inside, we just need to make a little hole in the centre. So what I'm going to do is make a little hole, like a little tunnel, a couple of centimetres in diameter, and then just a little bit down towards the gravel. Then we just pick up the plant. It's generally best to put this in the centre of your terrarium. Reason being, this plant will get bigger than the other ones. And when the leaves get too long, if they touch the sides, it can start to rot. The inside's going to get quite wet, and a lot of the time excess moisture leads to rot in plants. So just be aware, as a tip, to keep your plants away from the inside of the glass. So nice and central, I'm just going to drop it inside the jar and then just push the roots into my little hole. And then it's just really important that all of the roots are covered up. And then I'm just going to pull some of the compost that's surrounding the plant in towards the centre, in towards my calathea. And then I'm just going to gently get it in place. It's not too important at this stage to get it super firm. We'll do that much later on, because every time we put in a new plant, we'll just slightly disturb it a little. But for the time being, we'll just get it kind of where we want it and give it a little bit of affirmation. So now it's time for our Fittonia, this plant here. Same thing again, just give the pot a little bit of a squeeze and then just pull it out. Now at the moment that's way too big to go inside our terrarium, I would have thought. So all we need to do is just gently split the plant apart like this. So there's actually 5 or 6 individual little plants inside of here. So all you need to do is just loosely shake it apart like that. Obviously you don't want to rip the roots apart, but you can apply a little bit of pressure. And then we just shake off some of the excess compost. The roots are a little bit thinner on the Fittonia than they are on the calathea, so I recommend keeping a little bit of compost on. It just makes it a little bit easier to plant up. So to get our Fittonia inside, to start off, I'm just going to gently coil up the roots a little. You don't want to be too firm with them, but I just find it makes it a little bit more malleable if they're a little bit more compressed. So something like that. And now it's time to pop it inside. So I'm just going to make a little hole next to the calathea. What I quite like to do is make a triangle of Fittonias around my calathea in the centre. So I've kind of got like one nice Fittonia here, and make a little hole. And just pop it inside like that. And then I'm going to put another of those couple small Fittonia plants in a little triangular pattern on the other sides of the calathea. So now we've got our pillow moss. Now before we put it in, it's good to just take a little look around it. If there's any loose bits of moss like this here, you can just pull them apart like that, pull them off. And they're essentially just little strands, so the moss is just made up of like these little strands. Before we pop it in as well, just have a look. It might have a little bit of this excess yellow root. You can just pull that off like that. The plant doesn't need it to survive. And then you can just break it up into the sort of chunks that you want. So I'm just going to take a little chunk like this, and I'm going to put that inside. So I want to put it in between my Fittonia plants. I'm just going to make a little hole here. And this gap is the same size as this body of moss. So it's a little different to putting the other plants in. And in order to get it inside, just hold it like that from above. And then you're just going to pop it inside the hole, like that. Obviously you don't want to be too firm with it, because it may well break apart, but you can apply a little bit of pressure just to get it in shape. And you want it to be nice and even with the compost as well. Also try your best not to get it too close to the other plants. Reason being, too much moisture is going to lead to rot. And the moss will hold quite a lot of moisture by the time this starts to develop some condensation. We've got all our plants in now, so all we've got to do is just have a look over them, make sure they're all nice and firmly planted, nothing's too wobbly, and then make sure none of the leaves of the plants are touching the sides of the glass either. And just to finish up, we've got some of these top stones for decoration, and I'm just going to look out for a few bits of exposed compost. And and then just pop in a few stones. So now all we've got to do is pop on the lid, and that's how you make a terrarium.